This is Chats with Ryan Trainer from Tassie Bushranger and
PJ from Addicted to Grow, and welcome.
Hey Ryan, how you doing, brother?
Hey PJ, good. Yourself?
Yeah, really good, man. Really good and really excited for this.
That's right. Yeah, it's going to be good to have a chat and get to know a bit about each other's past.
Finally.
Yeah, that's it. Just for people that don't know, I'm just going to quickly mention how I met you.
Yep.
So basically, PJ and I are both in a Facebook group called the Australian Dads Network. And PJ was posting some good stuff in there, good positive and motivational stuff, which anyone that knows me knows that's sort of what I'm all about last few years particularly. So yeah, added him on Facebook and had a bit of a chat, and then also was noticing in his stories all the time he was talking about this, the man's walk, which I knew nothing about at the time. So I hit him up and just sort of asked what it was all about, and he explained that it was a nationwide movement, I guess. And yeah, so I looked it up and there was none down here in Tassie, so I started one up, which I think is pretty cool, and really thankful to PJ for that. And yeah, so that's been going, I don't know, it must be a few months anyway, since Christmas. But
Yep.
yeah, we've had a few walks and met a few blokes through that. There's 4 or 5 of us that are walking pretty regularly now. So that's been pretty cool. And yeah, just kept following PJ's content, and we've had a few chats about things along the way. And that's where we're at, really. Anything you want to add on that?
Mate, I think the biggest thing that I want to add to that is purely just that you took the initiative within yourself to like reach out. You know, you saw that it was positive and it's like-minded to you. So you were just like, mate, what are the chances that I'll just say g'day? And you said g'day, and I can clearly remember you shared one of my morning stories about get up, you know, go for a walk, go for a walk around the block. And I think the bit that got me the most is that you took the effort, and I never knew that you were a runner at the time, and you took the effort to post that, and you mentioned me while you were running, and then I was just like, this guy's genuine because he took it out of his time to do that. So I just want to add that takes, I know what it's like to do that on the flip side. So for someone to do that in return for me, like that means a lot. So it was really good to start off the friendship that way.
Yeah, and that was probably one of my first run videos, which I do every Sunday when I do my long run. I end up doing a video now because
cool.
I'm currently running around 30 Ks, so it takes me about 3 hours. So it's a lot of time of thinking in your head, and you just, by the last 10 Ks, I'm like, right, I've got to put what I've been thinking about the last 2 hours into a video. Yeah. So that's where lots of those videos have been coming from. But
wow.
Yeah, you'll get up, have a glass of water and walk around the block. I really like that. And that's how my running really started for me a few years ago when I wanted to get fit. I literally just started setting my alarm 10, 20 minutes earlier of a morning and would go and walk my dog. Well, I got a dog first, and I got a dog as sort of motivation to make me walk. And we walked for a while, and then I ended up starting to run a bit. And there's actually a video, one of my early videos I did, which some of my mates think it's a classic, where I get on the camera with my dog and I say, today I'm not walking the dog, I'm running the dog. And I just thought it was stupid, but it's sort of become a bit of a thing.
Yeah, and, that's cool.
Yeah, so just like how you say in your stories of just getting up, walking around the block, that's what I started doing a few years back, and now I'm up to training for my first full marathon. So I really like that message of just start doing a bit and doing something, making a habit. I love it.
Mate, that's totally awesome. Like, that's really inspiring to me. One of the things that I want to complete in my life, and I know from reading, there's a couple of points that I want to make here. I know one from reading Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and that is you don't plan for a marathon, you just fucking run one. And by me opening up right now and just saying, look, it's something I want to achieve in my life. I know that I've got a lot going on my plate right now, but the moment that it clicks, I'll just fucking run one. So I know that that's something inside of me that it's not to plan, I'm going to do one day. I know that it's in the goals, but the day that I actually turn around, it'll be like, cool, it'll be a K today, a K tomorrow, K and a half the next day, and then just go and then just creep it up. And I'll put the plan in my head that it'll be a marathon. Like, I'll I'll book into the marathon that's like, you know, within 6 months away, so that it's like, it's got to be done. There's no question now. And I'll tick it off purely like that, because inside my heart is that true grit of like, I can get this done. So I love that you're doing that, and that inspires the hell out of me. So, and this is another thing, like you've got the Tassie Bushranger, and that's one question I want to ask you, probably not for this podcast, but quickly, I just want to throw in there is that this whole idea about addicted to grow, if we just take your life, for example, your last 2 years and my last 3 years, it's like we've met now purely for a reason, and the reason doesn't need to be explained. It's just purely like, I just like what he's about.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing in life now moving forward, especially with what's going on with COVID-19. I don't want to get into this, but it's just purely about meeting people and looking for those people that inspire the shit out of you and connecting with them.
Yeah, definitely. The last few months on Facebook, I've been removing people and just adding new people that I see in groups, getting rid of that negativity, adding in the positivity makes a huge difference for sure.
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive. So Ryan,
let's go right back in time now.
Yeah. I'm gonna kick this off. I'm actually gonna put you on the spot here because I like doing this purely because you get the truth response, right? So I just want to ask you, tell me, like, from the age of 5 to 14, tell me about you.
All right, 5. Don't remember 5 too much, to be honest.
Okay.
Look, probably some of my earliest memories, grade 1 or 2, like solid memories. So I went to a school called Cottage School down here in Tasmania, which is known as a hippie school. So there's only 3 classes. So it was literally called Littlies, Middlies, and Biggies. So you're basically 4 grades all in together. And you're allowed to climb trees and all that. And we went on a what they called Environment Day, so an excursion every week. And we'd go on bushwalks every week. And even in grade 1 and 2, there was a camp every term. So real involved in the outdoors, which is probably, well, I always loved the outdoors. And I think it's part of why my parents took me to that school. And it really helped fuel that, because the school itself was all about nature and environment and animals, which is a passion of mine. Obviously, that's where Tassie Bushranger comes from, because I do love the outdoors. So, yeah, that was sort of a very different education than most people got for those 2 years. And obviously being very young, like I didn't stay the whole way through, which I think was a good thing to end up back in the system, like the main system. But one big thing that I always remember from them is I actually fell out of a 7-meter gum tree on my back onto cement pavers as a grade 2 kid, because I used to climb everything. My mum used to say, even before I could walk, you wouldn't look for me along the ground, you'd look for me up, because I'd be climbing on something all the time.
Wow.
So yeah, climbed up this massive gum tree, tried to pull myself up on a branch, and it broke on me. And fell the whole way. Somehow missed every branch on the way down and hit the ground.
Oh, wow.
And I've had back problems, lower back problems ever since that. So from a very young age, which, in my training now, I've still got to be very aware of that, especially doing core work. It's my excuse for why I've never got abs, but I'm getting to that stage where it is an excuse. And so then my love for the outdoors sort of always stayed. I actually, from about that age of grade 1, I did gymnastics all the way up to the start of grade 7, which, it's pretty not a common thing for a young guy to get into. But my sister did it, and so I got into it. And in grade 3 or 4 through to grade 6, I actually trained 9 hours a week, which at the time it was just what I did. But when I was talking about it to someone recently, thinking back as a young kid of 9 to 12, training 3 3-hour sessions a week I did. So pretty hardcore. Like even training now, I probably only do about that really. So I trained pretty hard at that, and I was pretty good at it. I got lots of medals, came second most of the time. Didn't usually come first, but often had podium finishes, got medals and ribbons and all that. And I got really strong doing that. But then in grade 4, I broke both my wrists at once, swinging on a pole and letting go. And I had to have nearly 6 months off after doing that. And so I never really got back into it to the same level as I used to do. And then I hit high school, and I let people's judgment get to me, to be honest. And so, yeah, basically once someone found out at my high school I was doing gymnastics, I stopped doing it, which in a sense I think is a shame that I let that judgment get to me. But I actually took up rugby union after that, because grade 6 for me was when the World Cup was in Australia, and I went and watched a game with my dad. And so in grade 6, I wasn't really known as a very strong person in my school, but then I started playing rugby with the jocks and the sporty people at lunch, and they really struggled to get me on the ground. I'd have 2 or 3 of them hanging on to me, and I'd keep walking and that. And yeah, I remember the first time ever, one of my mates who was a bit sporty, someone asked, "Did you want to play rugby at lunch?" And I said, "Oh, can I play too?" And they sort of laughed and said, like, "What, you want to play?" Because I wasn't known as a sporty person. And I said, "Yeah, I want to play." And then I got down there and I basically creamed them all, and really loved that they didn't think I'd be up for it, but then I was actually really good at it. And so anyway, yeah, that's then what I played through high school, was rugby union, and was pretty good at that as well. We got into some finals and that, and really enjoyed it. And then again, I let it fade out at the end of high school. But that's when I first got into running, was in high school doing my rugby union. Yeah, and family life, just quickly, family life was always great growing up. I've got great parents, great siblings. I really respect the upbringing I had. My parents were sort of known as a bit strict amongst my friends, and at the time it could be annoying, but in hindsight, I really appreciate and respect them for that.
Cool. That's really cool. And I like the way that you, I like the way that you did things that just truly made you passionate,
Yeah,
and taking ownership of that idea, or taking ownership that you then, let people's judgment get to you, is something that I guess we all struggle with, because we all do it,
yeah,
hand on heart. I did the same thing. But the best thing about it is that I love the way that you almost came back with this appreciation that you just liked the sport. You went and watched it with your dad. It was in Australia, and I remember they hosted it. And then you basically were just like, "I'll have a go." And then when these guys, you had the courage to say, right, "I want to play too." And this is one big thing that I'm going to mention this: fear, right? Fear hurts us a lot, but we need fear to gain courage. So by you just doing that and just turning around and just going, "Hey, look, yeah, I'll give it a go," is like, that's the moment. That's what we call a kyrios. It's a Greek word for a moment in time that changes your life. It's like a pivotal moment.
yeah,
And that kyrios moment that you had was just like a moment that just went, "No, I'm going to try it." And you tried it, and like you said, you creamed them all, and that all of a sudden just changed the course and direction of your life, and even these people to look at you differently, regardless of your past. So I really, man, I aspire to that, because there's so many learnings in your growing up that have made you who you are.
yeah.
So many
And I
good
mean,
results
obviously,
there.
there are a few random stories that come to mind,
Yeah.
but I suppose it's also interesting that they're the ones that come to mind first as a quick story through the progression.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Um,
And I'm sure over the time we're going to share plenty of these. So,
yeah, hopefully, yeah. How old are you, as a question?
so I'm 38 this year in October.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be 30 in December.
Congratulations. Dirty
Yeah,
30, as they say. That's
yeah,
awesome, man. Good milestone. That's great.
yeah. Looking forward to it. So, how about you, as a young fella?
So my parents, my father's Croatian and my mother's Filipino. So my
Yeah,
growing up was quite strict as well. But quite truthfully, we grew up in privilege and plenty. Like, I grew up with privilege and plenty. Yeah, I used to climb trees. We had a big oak tree in the back of our yard. I remember specifically, up until the age of like 7, we used to travel back to Philippines all the time to go and see my cousins and my mum's family. And all
Yeah.
of my cousins and family are still actually overseas. It's only my father, my mother, my one auntie, and my sister in Australia. The rest of them are still overseas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
travel has always been a part of my life. And like I said, we've always been in a place of privilege and plenty. So the schools that I went to, I went to St. Joseph's Primary School, so it was a Catholic school. My mum thought I was a bit of a terror. And one thing that I can own up to is I love being the class clown. And these are obviously things that we go through in life. One of my identities was really, I loved being the class clown. Actually, I just loved understanding attention and making a joke and things like that. And as I grew up, I tinkered with things. So I really loved knowing. Like I got hold of knowing things. I used to pull cars apart. My dad would buy me brand new, radio controlled cars. So I'd pull them apart, trying to figure out how they worked. What did the batteries do and how the motors worked? And I'd play with the wires and put them on the batteries, and then the motor would spin, and then I'd start to go, oh, cool, this is how it works. And then I'd get in trouble for pulling it apart because I wouldn't know how to put it back together again. And then I soon understood that I could put it back together and I didn't actually need instructions. And I'm going to tell this story a little bit forwards rather than backwards. And that is, when I was in year 5, I was told that I was dyslexic. I didn't like reading. I was probably even a little bit ADD. There may have been some. My attention, and that's a new subject that we'll talk about one day, but my attention span was huge for things that I liked, and the things that I didn't like, I didn't care, right? And that's obviously what ADD is, but I was never diagnosed. And the dyslexia was a part of me. I just couldn't read. Like I would always jumble letters. I couldn't comprehend what I read. Like I would see words like there, and I would just be like there, and they're just like, no, that's over there, and that's their things. And I was just like, I don't care. Like I didn't really get it because I didn't get it. I didn't care. So therefore, I started going to a speech therapist, and then my teacher in year 5, sorry, let me understand what dyslexia was, and then all of a sudden, I got colored glasses like Elton John and Tom Cruise. So the more research that I did, I understood that cool people had these colored glasses. So I just thought I was cool, and I was allowed to wear them at school, and that was awesome. And then like up until I played sport. Like we could be here for hours. Like I love sport. I love basketball. But I guess to share with you one of those pivotal moments for me was when in year 8 I was this tall when I was 14, right? So I grew this tall at 5'11" at the age of 14. So I used to play rep basketball, and I loved it. I used to play tennis because I could just hit the ball so hard, and I just really enjoyed it. But one of the things that was year 8 when I was 14, when another teacher came up to me and she said, I really need you to stop being the class clown, and I'm going to show you how you can benefit from this. And I said, okay, cool. Like, tell me more. And she said, I want you to be a public speaker. And I said, no way. Like, no, I couldn't do this, right? I couldn't do it. And she goes, no, I need you to understand that being a public speaker, you only need sort of 3 things or 2 things. She goes, you need to gain their attention, and you can already do that because you know how to entertain people, right? And the next thing is you just have to keep them intrigued or keep them entertained. So two of the things is humor, and then obviously keep them entertained. So the more that I understood that, obviously it brings me to now, but that was a very hideous moment in my life that made a pivotal point to really throw my direction into this and really understand about how to use my words to capture an audience.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That's interesting in that I'm very much the opposite. Talking to people and even doing a video like this, and all the videos I do on Facebook is a very new thing that I've had to force myself to do to get that confidence. And I mean, now it doesn't really bother me. I'm in a group that does fitness and survival and all that. And they do monthly challenges, and you've got to do videos of you doing the challenges, and whoever does the best and the most of them wins prizes. So that's basically how I started getting my confidence in doing videos, because I had to do them, and it was for that small group as well. So it made it easier for me. And now you've seen on my Facebook, I throw at me doing anything now.
Love it. And I love that, man. That's really good.
yes, that's been a big growth for me the last few years. And it's interesting also that I have basically not grown since I was 14. So I'm
That's cool.
180 centimeters, so dead on 6 foot. And basically since the start of high school, I've been that tall.
Wow.
So yeah, I was always taller than everyone else then. And now lots of them overshot me by the end of high school sort of thing. But I was tall to begin with. So I did realize in high school with sports, I wasn't very good at lots of sports, but I had really good cardio and I was big. And so I had enough natural stuff behind me that I could do all right at most sports. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I really, you know, the more you get to know someone when you meet purely by like-mindedness, you start to learn these things about them. And it's really good to understand. I'm the same when it comes to outdoor stuff. So I just want to throw that in here before obviously we wrap up. And like, I love understanding the outdoors. I love being in touch with nature. And, you know, one of my favorite things actually is I love being a lumberjack. That is my ultimate.
Yeah. Right.
That's me all over. Like, if you give me a four-wheel drive, and it's got to be an old cruiser and a big 660 chainsaw and an axe, I'm out there. I'll be out there all day.
Yeah.
It's just something that I love. So I love being in touch with the nature and outdoors. And, you know, I always carry the little SAS survival book that's about this big. I've got it in my backpack all the time. And man, if you threw me out in the middle of the bush, I'd get home.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. We, well, obviously, you know, but for other people, we've talked about the possibility of doing a big walk.
Yes.
And yeah, so that'll be coming up. And well, I may as well do it now on this live thing, but there's a possibility that there's a sail ship down here called the Lady Nelson, and they do 3-day sailing ships around Tasmania. So I'm hoping for my 30th to organise, and I'd like to invite you to see if we can organise to do one of those trips sometime, hopefully early next year in the summer.
I know one thing is that I can get truly seasick, but I'd be willing to take as many pills as I could to stop that, and I'd join you, mate. I would join you for your birthday.
Right, cool.
Absolutely.
We'll discuss some details off air.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, great chatting with you.
Yep.
We'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it a thing, and we can